So you're moving to Sacramento, California, or the greater Sacramento metro, but before you make that jump and lock in on an area, you want to know what some of the pros and cons are of what it's like living in Sacramento, California. In today's video, we are giving you our most updated list of some of our absolute favorite things about this city and what some of the things that we just absolutely can't stand.
We are Lance and Lauren with the Living in Sacramento team, and jumping right into it, I'm going to be sharing with you all of the cons about Sacramento. Lance is going to be sharing with you all of the pros, but make sure you stick around until the very end, where I'll share with you one thing that I really love about Sacramento, and Lance will share with you one thing that he can't stand about Sacramento.
Never fails. Anytime that you're down in downtown Sacramento and you're filming, everybody gives you some weird look and asks you what documentary or TV show that you're doing it on. So jumping into the first pro, and one of my favorite pros, is gonna be things to do. So I'm down here in Old Town Sacramento, which is kind of fun. It's kind of touristy. You got all these little like old shops, old buildings. You've got the Railroad Museum down here, but there's just tons of different things to do in Sacramento. So you can have everything from sports to performing arts to checking out concerts, or you can do outdoor recreation activities. So, as it relates to sports, we have the Sacramento Kings, which are a professional basketball team that they play at Golden 1. They actually did really well last year. Then for AAA baseball, we have the Sacramento River Cats. They actually play across the river over at Sutter Health Park, which is gonna be kind of West Sacramento, but super close to Sacramento, downtown Sacramento. A lot of people go and check that out. Then we also have the Sacramento Republic Football Club, which is going to be our minor league soccer team here. Now, with that being said, if sports aren't your thing, we definitely have tons of big headliners come into Golden 1 as it relates to music or concerts. And then we also have a bunch of really cool kind of like intimate setting venues like Harlow's and Ace of Spades, and even the Boardwalk out in Orangeville, where I've seen some pretty big name musicians come through those spots that have been really cool to see in those like intimate settings. Now, outside of musical performers or comedy shows, basketball games, professional sports, we also have some performing arts. We also have a couple of museums. So behind me is going to be the Railroad Museum. We also have the Crocker Art Museum that's going to be located in downtown Sacramento. Now, these are going to be things that are going to be located directly in downtown Sacramento. But even if you branch out a little bit farther outside of the downtown Sacramento area into the greater Sacramento metro, there's still tons of other things that you can do. Now, lastly, one of my favorite things or things to do in Sacramento is just gonna be all the different outdoor recreations and funs and hikes. Anything that's within a 10 to a 60-minute drive. If you wanna go hiking in the foothills, we've got rivers, we've got lakes, we've got bike trails. So Sacramento is definitely a very outdoors community. One of the other things we'll touch on a little bit later is gonna be kind of like the weather here, but we usually have pretty mild weather, so it allows us to stay active pretty much 365 days a year. We get some rain in the wintertime, but for the most part, our weather is pretty manageable to where you can get outdoors, get active, and have a good time.
So Lance just covered that we have a ton of things to do here, which makes Sacramento awesome. But one thing to be aware of is that we do have a lot of traffic here as well. So if you're thinking about going out and catching a show at Golden 1 or traveling in and around the city, one thing that you'll want to make sure that you're aware of is that you're planning accurate time to get to and from places. So Sacramento does have a lot of traffic, especially on our freeways. Now, two of our major freeways that go in and out of Sacramento now, one's going to be Interstate 80 and the other's going to be Highway 50. Now, Highway 50 during rush hour traffic can get really busy, and it can be frustrating if you don't plan accordingly. Same thing with Interstate 80, which goes north and south in and out of Sacramento. Now, one thing to note about our traffic, while we do experience traffic, is if you're coming from somewhere like the Bay Area or Los Angeles or any other major city across the United States, we have traffic here, but it's not super bad. So our traffic, while it can be frustrating and annoying, especially to a lot of locals here, it does continue to move. Usually it doesn't sit like a parking lot, but it's one thing that you'll just want to make sure that you're aware of so that you plan enough time to get to and from these awesome events in Sacramento.
Now, I know Lauren just touched on traffic and congestion, and some of that is going to come from our next pro, which is going to be the job market here. So we are starting to see a lot of companies relocate or come to the greater Sacramento metro. We have companies like Intel, we have places in Folsom, Kikkoman, but we are starting to see the job market here in Sacramento grow a lot. And with that comes a lot more new opportunities for people. But really the Sacramento job market is going to be broken down into three main categories. You're going to have government, you're going to have technology, and you're going to have healthcare. Now, just because the job market's broken down into those three categories, those aren't our main three categories. But with us being the capital of California, we do have a lot of state and government jobs here. We also have a lot of city and county jobs that are going to, support a lot of the residents that are going to be coming to the greater Sacramento metro. Now, beyond the government sector of jobs, we're also going to have a lot of healthcare jobs here, first responders, police, fire. But with that, we're going to have different companies in healthcare like Sutter, Kaiser, Dignity Health, Shriner Children's Hospital, and the UC Davis Med Center. That's all going to be located here in Sacramento. So if you lean a little bit more towards the healthcare, there's a lot of different opportunities that are going to be here for you. And lastly, technology is going to be another big one. So we have a lot of different technology companies that are locating or bringing their headquarters to the greater Sacramento metro. Places like SkySlope, Micron Technologies, Intel that's going to be located in Folsom. So there's going to be a lot of different options as it relates to the job market here in Sacramento, California, which is going to be our second pro on the list of what makes Sacramento an awesome place to move to.
So I know Lance just talked about the different job opportunities and the different job markets that are here in Sacramento, but one thing you'll want to make sure you're aware of, which brings us to the next con, in my opinion, is you're going to want to make sure you're aware of that Sacramento has a lack of public transportation. Now, while we may be a major city here in California, we don't have some of the things that you might expect, with this being the capital of California, which brings us to the limited transportation here. So we don't have a major subway system. We don't have any intricate public transportation system. We do have a light rail system, which will take you in and out of Sacramento, but has very, very limited stops. It'll take you down to Folsom if you want to catch it in Folsom, and it'll take you into a few different spots in Sacramento, but it's super, super limited and not something that a lot of people rely on. So getting around Sacramento, you're not going to want to rely on public transportation. You're going to want to make sure you have a car to get around to and from places, again, unless you're living somewhere like Midtown or downtown and everything you need to accomplish is within your little bubble.
Now, the number 3 pro on our list may not necessarily be a pro for Sacramento, but it's going to be location. So the location of Sacramento is going to be right in the Central Valley. It's pretty much going to be the halfway distance point between Lake Tahoe and San Francisco. So if you can't make up your mind, like I can't sometimes, and sometimes I like mountains, sometimes I like to go to the city, it's the best of both worlds, right? So when I lived in San Francisco, if I wanted to go to the mountains, it was going to be a 4 to 5 hour drive if I didn't hit any traffic. And I definitely wasn't doing any day trips up to the mountains. Sacramento's close enough to where if you want to make a day trip up to South Lake Tahoe, you can make it up and back to South Lake Tahoe and it not be a super big inconvenience to your day. You can go hit the slopes and then you can still head down and be back to your family by 5 or 6 in the evening, which is super cool. Some of my absolute favorite things about Lake Tahoe is they have an awesome 4th of July fireworks show, and then I'm an avid snowboarder, so I like to go to North Star, I like to go to Heavenly, I like to go to Palisades, or I like to go to Sierra Tahoe. Any of those places are awesome places to go check out, but being that we're in Sacramento, it's only about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive, but you can make it up and back pretty quick. Now, if you want to go the opposite direction and you want to go west to San Francisco, you're also about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive there. So if you have to travel back to San Francisco to, maybe catch a 49er game, or you want to catch a Giants game, or you have family that still live down in the Bay Area, or you got to commute down there for work, it's still only about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive depending on which way you're going. So our location here makes it super easy if you want to, go up to Lake Tahoe for some day trips, or you want to go down to San Francisco for some day trips as well.
One thing about Sacramento is we do have beautiful tree-lined streets, and if you look around today, it's absolutely gorgeous outside. However, one thing to note is that we do experience bad air quality from wildfires during wildfire season. Now, wildfires don't necessarily directly hit the Sacramento area, they do affect it. So unfortunately, California has been known to not manage its forestry very well, and we do experience forest fires, which then cause a ton of smoke that can travel into the valley and sit here stagnant for weeks on end. Now, when that happens, our AQI shoots up and they cancel just about everything you can think of when it comes to outdoor activities. And to be honest, even if they didn't cancel outdoor activities, you're probably not going to want to go outside because it's super gross, it's hard to breathe, and it's not a pleasant experience. Now, when it comes to air quality, it's not like this all the time. Like I said, it generally only happens when we're in wildfire season and the winds carry that smoke in and it'll sit stagnant until the winds shift and then it gets carried back out. Now, if you are someone who experiences asthma or you have a breathing condition, during this time, you're gonna wanna make sure that you plan for it. Like I said, you either get up early, you get all of your errands done, or you just stay inside most of the day, because we do know that people that suffer with these different either asthma or bad breathing conditions, this smoke can really, really affect your everyday life. And again, it doesn't happen all the time, and hopefully California government gets better at managing this so we don't experience this all the time. I remember as a kid, I feel like the fires that we experienced and the smoke was really far and few between, but the last few years it seems like it's been a lot worse. So hopefully California gets better and this isn't something that we continue to experience year after year.
Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but our number 4 pro for living in Sacramento is going to be the climate here. So the climate is going to be pretty mild throughout most of the year, right? We don't deal with any kind of crazy snow. We don't deal with any kind of crazy freezes. Our spring and our fall are absolutely beautiful here. We do have a little bit of heat in the summertime. It does get to a point in the wintertime where you kind of get sick of the rain, but you know, as it relates to the weather here, weathers are going to be absolutely beautiful. So we're entering into the end of October, beginning of November when we're filming this video. It's still going to be about 85 to 90 degrees, beautiful, not too hot. Trees are starting to turn colors, and then you've got a lot of good sunshine and you've got a lot of good weather throughout the years. Now, I'm sure Lauren will touch on this as a con. There are a couple of months in the summertime where it does get a little hot. She'll talk about it. I think it's not as bad. I prefer the heat, but you know, as it relates to the weather and the climate here in Sacramento, we're gonna be dealing with pretty mild changes, right? I would say low, or worst case scenario, probably low 40s most of the time in the winter time, and it'll get up to the high 60s. Summertime, you know, we can get some weather, some heat that'll get up into the hundreds, but not too bad. But in my opinion, I think for the amount of sunshine days and the amount of spring and fall days that we get for the majority of the year, it makes it well worth it. It's probably one of my favorite things about living in Sacramento is our weather here.
Now, I know Lance just talked about the climate and the different seasons and the weather being a pro here, but one thing that I want to make sure you guys are aware of is that we have extremely high heat in the summer months. Now, it's not super, super bad. It's not like Arizona, but I would definitely consider it a con and something that you want to make sure you're aware of. So our summers can reach multiple days over 100 degrees. I think last summer our hottest day was like 112. And it kind of comes in waves where you'll have like a 5-day stretch of over 100 where you just can't really seem to escape that hot heat. Now, in our summer months when it is super hot, it tends to peak around 5 p.m. So again, you can kind of shift your lifestyle. You can get up, you can get outdoor activities and recreation. If you like to go running or anything like that, or get in any outdoor cardio, you can get up early and you can accomplish that earlier in the morning before the temperatures pick up. But it is something to be aware about. So if you are living in the Sacramento area, you will be running your air conditioner. We are not one of those places where in the summer months you can just open up all your windows and expect a cool breeze to come in to cool off your house. It will get hot. You will be running your AC, and you will be wanting to make sure that you plan accordingly for the hot heat days. Now, even though it's super hot here, I mean, one of the things that I really like about California in the hot summers is, like we mentioned earlier, you do have a lot of waterways. So there are ways to combat this con, but it's just something to make sure that you're aware about before you make the move to Sacramento.
Now, our fifth and our last pro for reasons why people love living or moving to the greater Sacramento area is going to be the overall affordability. Now, we've done a lot of cost of living videos in the past where we've talked about the affordability as it relates to California cost of living and even cost of living from Sacramento in comparison to maybe to some of those other areas of California or other parts of the state of California. But all in all, if you're comparing California to, let's say, places like San Diego, Los Angeles County, the Bay Area, San Francisco, that's one of the main pros that we get from a lot of people who are relocating to our area is they can actually still get a pretty decent sized home on a pretty decent sized lot. They're not packed in with their neighbors, and they can actually have a backyard, a front yard. And that's gonna be most of the greater Sacramento metro. So if you're comparing some of our areas to some of the other areas in the state of California, the affordability here is gonna be a huge pro. That's why we wanna educate people on this area, because a lot of people don't really realize that Sacramento has a lot to offer as it relates to, you know, living here, moving here, bringing your family here. So the affordability is really gonna be, you know, one of our main pros of why people really love to move or relocate to the greater Sacramento metro.
All right, so I know Lance just talked about affordability and how if you're relocating maybe within California or thinking about moving to California and you're thinking about the Sacramento area, this area can be more affordable than other parts of California. However, one thing to note is that if you are planning to move to this area, while we are more affordable than other parts of California, it's going to be that we have a high demand here. So I would say our last con, or my last con for this list, is going to be to know with our better affordability in California comes a ton of people relocating here, a ton of people moving here, which drives up demand, which can make it a little bit difficult when you're putting offers in on houses or when you're thinking about moving here. There's going to be some competition that you're going to have to deal with, but that's okay because Lance and I are here to make sure that we make this process as easy as possible and that we're setting you up for success in your relocation or move to the Sacramento area. So while there can be demand, we make sure that we go through the process with you, we explain to you all of the potential pitfalls and explain to you what's happening in the current market so that you're set up for success if there are multiple offers that you get bid out on. We'll definitely cover all of this in our strategy session that we'll have with you in that one-on-one Zoom call. So if you're thinking about making a move to the greater Sacramento area, make sure you book that one-on-one Zoom call. There should be a link down in the comments below, but we're here to make this as easy as possible and to help account for the stress that can come from moving to this area. All right, so my favorite thing about Sacramento, or my favorite pro to Sacramento, is definitely going to be that it's a water town. I love that you have the rivers close by, there's tons of different lakes, and there's tons of different things that you can go out and do, especially in our hot summers. I love being able to get out and hang out on the water with family and friends. So that's definitely what I would say is my favorite thing about Sacramento and my favorite pro.
Yeah, so my con, the thing that I can't really stand, or the thing I guess I wish Sacramento had a little bit more of, would be like major professional sports teams, right? So we have the Sacramento Kings. I'm not a huge basketball fan, but they're still fun to go check out. I would love it if we had a baseball team or even a football team. You know, having some more professional sports would be awesome. But that would be my con, is like we don't have as many professional sports teams here. So those are our pros and cons. It's the most updated list that we have for you for 2023 going into 2024. So some of these pros may be really big for you. Some of these cons may be not such a big deal. So that's where we're going to have that number pop up. We are the ones that answer every phone call, email, and text message. And we absolutely love it when people want to schedule a one-on-one private Zoom call with us so we can help figure out which one of the areas in Sacramento or the greater Sacramento metro can be the best fit for you when you're thinking about, you know, picking up your entire family and moving them to the greater Sacramento metro. So that number's up there. We absolutely love it when you guys reach out to us. So give us a phone call, shoot us a text, or send us that email.